Coming up on Growing Indoors with the Eco Garden House, we're going to harvest more tomatoes. We're going to look at a tomato plant that has died off and try to come to a conclusion of why that happened, and my views on how successful and the thoughts of what I think of the Eco Garden House. All that starting right now. Sponsored by Eco Garden House. At last, an indoor greenhouse equipped with complete easy lighting and watering systems. You can grow perfect organic produce and plants at your home all year round. Grow 24/7, 365. You now have no excuses. Welcome to Growing Indoors with the Eco Garden House. I'm Joy Baird. One of the tasks that we always have to perform when we go into the Eco Garden House is harvesting, and we've been very pleased with the production of tomatoes in which we have gotten. Now, one tip I would recommend for your tomato growing in your Eco Garden House is I would stick with the cherry variety tomatoes, the chocolate cherries, the Cherokee purple cherries, the yellow plums, just the smaller variety, simply because they produce much quicker. We have had some black Krim perform in here relatively well, but the smaller the variety, the quicker the turnaround on the plants, and that seems to be the type of tomato that works best in the Eco Garden House, in our opinion, with the cherry ones. And it's a very easy, quick snacking type of tomato. So I'm going to go harvest all of these. Then we'll talk about one of the problems we have with one of our tomato plants and some of the pros that we enjoy about our Eco Garden House. Okay, so I've got a little selection here of yellow plum tomatoes. Now, one thing that we truly enjoy about our Eco Garden House, and I was going to put these up here, but this is not a table, that's a light. You don't want to put stuff up there, is the availability of having fresh tomatoes, fresh produce for us all winter long. Now, no matter when you decide to start growing in your Eco Garden House, you'll have fresh produce all the time, with fresh tomatoes, basil, lettuce, even cucumbers we've had. Now, one thing that I would recommend on growing cucumbers, which we have done successfully with the Boston pickling cucumber, is look for a variety in which it self-pollinates, or it contains all female flowers, that it doesn't require male flowers in order to pollinate with. Because if you go with that route like we did, we had to take pollen from the male flower and pollinate the female flower as if we were the bee. So keep that in mind. If you go with a variety that's self-pollinating, it will work very well. You'll get way more cucumbers than you'll know what to do with, and with no maintenance of having to go in there with a Q-tip or a paintbrush and transferring pollen from one portion to, well, from the male flower to the female flower. So keep that in mind. Now, I want to look at one tomato. We have 4 tomatoes here. We've got a yellow plum, black Krim, 2 black Krims, and then this was a Roma here, and this one has died out. So I want to take a look, and we've had irrigation on it, so I want to pull this up, and I want to see if there's any telltale signs of root deformancy or anything like that. Try to get as much of the roots out of here as possible, which I didn't do. All right, let's see what we got here. Now you can see I broke that, still got aroma on there. I broke that root stem off, that main grow tip. So there's more in the ground there. But let me shake this off here. This has been dead for a couple of weeks, and I wanted to leave it there and just see what I could tell. It's got a lot of nodulars on it, which is not bad. That's a good thing. I don't see anything that would indicate that this is the reason why this died. But like many plants in nature, and they run their course and they die out. So that's just a normal thing. And what we can do is, with our raised bed here, we can go ahead and place another tomato in there. Or if you were in multiple grow bags, you'd simply just remove that one, revitalize the soil, add some more fertilizer, and put another tomato or another vegetable in there. So that's just, we want to look at that and see what we had to do. So not a fault of anybody's, it's just one of them things that happen. So a couple of things that I've made mention over the previous episodes you want to keep in mind about your eco garden house is you want to make sure there's always water in the reservoir. It can sneak up on you. You run it for a certain amount of minutes a day, but sometimes you forget and you need to check it. Now it has a 33-gallon reservoir for fresh water, so you can keep that in mind. We forgot about it and it's ran dry. It hasn't burnt the pump up, but you want to keep that in mind so it doesn't burn the pump up. And the gray water, we've not had any water go in the gray water simply because we're watering adequately for the containers in which we have. If you overwater, the water is just going to run through the containers, run through the soil, and start filling up your gray water tank. And you really don't want that because you're wasting water. You want to be very conscious and careful about how much you're watering. And the instruction manual tells different scenarios on how much water versus how many minutes you will run it on that. And the system, the Eco Garden House, we've had no mechanical problems whatsoever with it. All the light bulbs work. It runs for about 11 to 12 hours a day based on our timer. No problems at all. The fans come on and come off based on the thermostat that we have set. One challenge that we did face that I want to make aware to you when you get your Eco Garden House is your medium in which you're going to plant your plants in. You can choose to plant it in any type of medium. We're using a professional potting soil, which actually contains soil, peat moss, slow release fertilizer. So one thing that can occur in that type of mixture, if you're not going with a sterile mix or a soilless mix, is you can have insects in that soil because it's actually got compost in it. So what you can do is, and what we have done, and we did have some aphid issues and some whitefly issues, but that was controlled with organic practices. You can take that soil in which you're going to grow in and bring it inside, get it nice and warm. Let's say it's the winter time or early spring. Bring it inside your home, leave it in the bag. Do not open the bag. Keep it nice and warm for about a week. Then take and open, decide how much you're going to use. Put that bag, if you can, in the freezer for 3 or 4 days, because what is occurring is all those organisms, the aphids, the whiteflies, all that, the bad insects, are beginning to hatch. Those eggs are in that soil. So by getting it in the environment of your home, you're allowing them to be in an environment like early spring, early summer. So the reproduction begins to happen, the eggs start to hatch. Then you put it in the freezer and you kill them off, and that greatly reduces your insect population that you're going to have, you'll potentially have. Now, ours was not devastating or horrible, but you're going to face some of that. Now, if you want to go with a pure, clean, don't have to worry about any insects whatsoever, go with a cocoa coir mix. That is the fibrous byproduct of the coconut industry. That is purely a medium in which it's just for the plants to grow, and you'll have to add your own nutrients and supplements to feed the plant, but you will not have to worry at all about any type of insects being in bad bugs infestating your Eco Garden House, because if you have a small problem, it's going to get very big very quickly because it's a perfect environment. Another thing with if you're using a liquid fertilizer or the chemicals, the nutrients that you'll use for your cocoa coir, you don't want to put that in your fresh water system, simply because that stuff can sit there. At 33 gallons is a lot of gallons to go through. Simply use it in the containers per plant, per recommendation of the manufacturer listing on the back of the bottle for the application you're applying it for. Don't just put it in your reservoir and then think that it's going to feed the plants as it needs. It's simply not going to work that way, and it can hurt the pump and not work well. So keep that in mind when it comes to growing different scenarios in your Eco Garden House. So when it comes to growing in the Eco Garden House for us here at the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, we've been growing in here for approximately 7 months. And we've planted a number of plants and we've harvested a lot of produce. And we're very pleased with the production of the Eco Garden House. Now, it is an investment. It's not something you're just going to go buy on a whim. It's something that you want to look at and see if it's something that you and your family can benefit from, whether you place this in your basement, your garage, or a spare room as we have, it is a way to get the whole family involved in gardening, as well as you don't have to go outside. You can do this year-round, 24/7, 365, grow in the Eco Garden House. And you can also grow things in here based on the light and the timing and how much light is provided, how many hours. Grow things that you would never ever be able to grow in, for our example, Zone 5A in southeast Wisconsin, that we would never ever be able to grow outdoors. So it's another opportunity to expand that variety of vegetables and fruits that you can grow. There are some limitations. You're not going to be able to grow garlic or rhubarb or asparagus, items like that, simply because they have to have a certain number of cold hours in order to develop and grow correctly. So it's not everything you can grow in the world you can grow in the Eco Garden House. There is some limitations simply because the plants are not developed by nature to grow in a warm climate like this. We appreciate you tuning in and watching. We hope you've learned something and been informed about making a decision on whether or not you would like to have your own Eco Garden House. Thank you for watching, and this has been Growing Indoors with the Eco Garden House.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.